That'll do, Peg. That'll do.
What was that off? That was
Babe.
Off, Babe.
I wonder if my kids would like Babe. There's nothing horrible in Babe, is there?
I wouldn't have a clue.
I don't think so.
Don't remember.
No. It's not like Charlotte's Web.
Yeah, well, that's the whole dystopian thing. Welcome to GCP Live, episode number 26, for the 28th of October 2022. GCP Live is sponsored by Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I'm your host, Stephen Bancroft. On today's show, we're getting the band back together for the first year anniversary special. Plus, what's going on with all the hacks? We take a look at Google Next. And I should let you know that we're doing this across 3 time zones. But before we get to any of that, I'd like to introduce the co-hosts of the show, Dave Wall. How you going, Dave?
I'm feeling cramped in this one today, Banky.
I know, it's crowded. And our special guest today, Ian Brown. How you going, Ian?
Hey, Becky. Yeah, guys. How are you?
Good. And back for the second time, Troy Beebe. How you going, Troy?
Hey, mate. How you going?
Yeah, good, mate. And, of course, a very, very special guest today from our internal security domain. It's Rick Elsom. How you going, Rick?
Hey, guys. Thanks very much.
What have you been up to? You guys been up to any, tech adventures or playing with anything during the week?
I've had a tech misadventure. I was gonna come up with an adventure. I had a new Raspberry Pi thing that I was doing, but I've got a little bit of a rant because I had a broken monitor that I raised an RMA for, and they picked it up a month ago. I chased them up like, "Where's my monitor? Like, what's going on?" They come back and they said, "Oh yeah, we've sent a credit to the retailer." What? Why? Why did you? I was like, "Where's my monitor?" I can't look at a credit.
And so something you bought on eBay?
No. It was from PC case gear, right? Why? So now I have to go chase them and be like, "Hey guys, apparently you've got some money for a screen."
So yeah, and that'll be lost in the pile of paperwork, and it'll take another month to sort that out.
Yep.
I got a new Pixel 7.
You got Pixel 7? Please tell.
The Plus, yeah, it was good. Well, I cracked my 6, of course, and it was only a couple days to wait till the 7, so I got it. It looks pretty similar, but the screen, you can tell, is much better. Yeah. A bit faster. Yeah.
Is it bigger than the 6? The 6 was a pretty hefty phone.
They're almost exactly the same. Well, I had the Pro on both, so about the same size.
And I heard the cameras are much better on the 7.
The 7, the camera. I haven't even played with. There's a whole bunch of new modes like motion and stuff like that, which I haven't even played with, but look pretty cool. Nice. Like you can follow somebody and it'll blur the motion in the background. And you can do all kinds of crazy photo stuff.
And you can do that cool thing where you can cut people out of the background that sort of photobomb you.
Yeah, that's right.
Live editing.
We've come a long way since Red Eye. Correct.
Yep. Did you get the watch as well?
No, which is interesting. There's some stuff around whether or not it's got Fitbit gear in it and if it's competing with Fitbit. So I don't know what they're
Google bought Fitbit.
They did.
It's actually listed on the Fitbit site.
Is it? But
yes.
I don't know if it's using the same componentry or not. I haven't looked into that. I saw an article about it being potentially competitive to some of the higher end Fitbits. So I'm not sure how they're going to, or if they're going to transition branding and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's the long-term plan to actually merge the two together, because you got the the health app, the health monitoring app, and the Fitbit app, and they've got the same data, and just put the two together.
The Fitbit app's much better though.
Of course,
really good. Yeah, I use that all the time.
Yeah, it's the Pixel Watch is something that I'm very interested in, but I don't know if I'm going to be ready for a Gen 1 product. I know obviously they're chasing the Apple Watch, right? Like it's clearly the market leader. So I'm looking forward to them seeing make up that ground, because I'm not stepping into Apple's ecosystem.
Yeah. No, well, we saw a prototype of it when we were down in Sydney for Google On Air. One of the Googlers had one of the prototypes there that they were testing out, and they look really cool.
They do look good. Yeah.
Yep. I had a bit of a misadventure over the week.
Yes.
Was working on a client site, and we were deploying a large number of of GKE namespaces, each with their own Let's Encrypt certificate, and we ran out of provision quota.
Oh dear.
As it turns out, you're only allowed to provision 50 certificates a week.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, only 50 a week. Come on. Like,
well, we've got 172 sites to move, so
this is Let's Encrypt.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Isn't there is there a paid option for?
Nope.
Right.
You can get your quota bumped, but it takes a while.
Okay. No. We tried that. They came back and said we don't meet the criteria for it. So we literally migrated everyone over a single night to a wildcard.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Could you rotate accounts?
No, it's too much effort because it's all automated through pipeline. So it's just too much effort to sort of rotate different accounts for different certificates.
One of our projects did something like that, though, of project chaining to get over a quota limit. Probably shouldn't be talking about that, but it is one way to get over quotas. It's a bit complicated, but yeah.
Well, it was interesting because I had to try and figure out how to apply the wildcard certificate to every site. But normally in GKE, you'd apply it at the ingress and it'd all just work. But I found because we're using Nginx Ingress Controller, you can actually apply a default certificate at the ingress controller, which is the wildcard. So you don't have to specify the secret name in the ingress.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
So it just made
it just uses that. Yeah.
Yep. It made it simple.
Cool. Well, I finally finished off my home server refresh. So right now I have a 36 terabyte NAS, which has 2 link aggregated links coming out of it, which is quite nice, quite speedy. One for NFS, one for Samba. It's like the front end. And I've got a bunch of containers running and set up a front end so that, I can have some virtual servers to some machines inside. Got some. I finally have figured out. Well, I knew how to do it, but I didn't know how to design it. What I was going to design, but I've got a nice GSU tool rsync running now with my backups into Google Cloud.
Very nice.
From a. I've even got an archive directory where I can RAR stuff up and just dump it in there, and it's just stuff I'm never going to use again, and that gets pushed into an archive storage bucket.
What storage drives are you using? I've had terrible luck with the Seagate Barracudas, the 2 terabyte ones.
So they're 6 TB NAS drives, Seagate NAS drives.
Okay. The green ones I've had problems with. I've lost probably 3 in 2 years.
Yeah, I lost data on Seagate Barracudas where I had a mirror set and they both died in a couple of days of each other.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough.
Oh, that's unlucky.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you have to. I bought them over a few weeks in pairs from different vendors. So
nice. Spreading the batches.
Non-consecutive serial numbers So
I learned that the hard way building a server many years ago for a construction company. I bought all the chassis and everything and all the hard drives from the one vendor on a single day, and all 4 of the hard drives failed within a week.
And it's a Friday afternoon batch.
Yeah, that's a controller problem, probably just pushing out bad bits. Anyone using MD80M for their NAT? Anybody?
Not for a long time.
Not for a long time.
I'm still in MD80M. Can't get rid of it. Yeah, that's hardcore of it. It's like doing your own ipTables. It's
right. Well, this is all.
What's wrong with doing your own ipTables?
I mean, I guess there's a modern era, and then there's us dinosaurs. So
I had ZFS before that, and that was okay, but ButterFS is the way to go.
Yeah.
So on that note, I've been doing a WireGuard VPN with a Raspberry Pi. And so I'll probably be setting up some sort of intrusion detection system, and I'm going to put some sort of filter in to kind of protect the kids and stuff from the local network. But I'm loving WireGuard. It's just so simple for VPN setup.
WireGuard's awesome. Really good. You can use that. What is it? Pi-hole.
Yeah, I've got Pi-hole on mine.
Yeah, Pi-hole. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm running all that as containers, so I can just spin up another container if I want to do any of that sort of stuff.
In the Pi.
In the Pi, yeah.
In the Pi, yeah. Oh, how far we've come, hey? How far we've come.
The hardest part is actually just getting a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
I've been looking at the Caders micro boards now because you just can't get a Raspberry Pi for love nor money.
Yeah.
And so the Caders boards run a Raspbian image, and they're compatible. They've got the 40-pin GPIO, and they're readily available.
Yeah, nice.
I've got some 2s and 3s I can sell you if you like.
It'd be worth more than you paid for them now.
Yep.
I mean, I managed to get, I just bought a Raspberry Pi 4, but the 1 gig ones are the only ones I can get. Right? If you want to go to like 4 or 8, they're hen's teeth. Like, you pretty much, you have to buy like whole kits, even if you just want things. So you're not paying like $380 for what's a $60 part.
Yep.
And speaking of Linux, you hear that H.264 is going away, and Linus Torvalds contemplating removing i48.6 code from the kernel as well.
Yeah. So Fedora announced just a couple of weeks ago that they are removing Mess's H.264 from the OS because the patent holder now requires that open source projects pay a license.
But only up to 100,000 installs, though, which I guess Red Hat is way past anyway.
Yeah, be miles past it.
Yeah.
And it was up to $97 million is the limit on what they have to pay.
Yeah, right, up to a maximum, yeah.
For a codec.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So there's an open codec out there that you can use to implement H.264, and it is royalty-free.
A1, I think that's what it's called, A1, something like that.
A1 or AV1, something.
AV1, that's it, yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like an opportunity.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's been worked on. It's been worked on. And, I mean, the i486 code going away, I don't know. Look, is anyone really using i486 anymore? Maybe industrial controllers, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty old gear. I would posit that not many of them would be using it, and those who are probably aren't upgrading their OS anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because on some of that stuff you can't, right? You're locked in the way it is, yeah.
You'd imagine that the things that out there that are still running it are probably mission-critical systems.
Yeah, I was thinking NASA probably using a couple.
Power Grid. Power Grid's probably all running.
Power Grid stuff, yeah. Yep.
Half of defense.
No. They did a tech refresh not that long ago. I get the defense news.
Oh, yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's move on. Enough of the banner for the moment. Now, Rick, we've got you on the show today because we're going to talk about some security-related news later. There's been some major incidents happening in the Australian IT space recently. But since it is your first time on the show, and as is customary, you have to tell us a horror story. It can be about someone you've worked with, or a bit of self-deprecation is always fun. Have you got anything to share with us?
Yes, I've come prepared. I knew this was. I knew this was coming.
That's right. It's a safe space. There's nobody listening. It's just us.
Yeah, sure. So I would like to share with you the time I deleted sales data from a server. Not so long ago, I worked as a solutions architect for a startup, and the founder of this startup also owned a few hardware retail shops, and part of my contract was also being the go-to systems admin supporting the retail operations. They were fairly modern in that they used Office 365, but they heavily relied on an old legacy Visual Basic application for their inventory and point of sale. I tried to avoid touching it at all costs, so I wasn't really familiar with its inner workings. But one day I was tasked with setting up a new server for this application. I'd mapped the network drives, copied across the current server folder to the new PC, but of course there was an issue with the setup process. So I thought I'd best start from scratch. I proceeded to delete what I thought was the newly copied folder, but I hadn't properly checked what directory I was in, and I deleted, in fact, the server folder. I was thinking this is taking longer than expected, and then panic set in when I realised I deleted the application server data. By the time I ended the process, it had deleted about a third of the data. And being a VB application and the way it was designed, it relied a lot on different symlinked flat files. So there was no central DB storage of any kind. So by deleting just a few files, I managed to corrupt many others. No backup had been done for 3 days. So lost 3 days worth of transactions, quotes, and the shops couldn't process card payments until the issue was resolved. Data had to be restored from paper trail by interviewing staff and CCTV.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that sounds horrible, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's only 3 days at least.
Yeah. It took a little bit for them to recover, but so it's normally up to the staff to do a backup to their local PC at the end of the day. It doesn't have the best backup sort of situation. It's more like at the end of the day, when you close the application, it prompts you to do a backup. But because it takes so long and it's incumbentism, most people just skip it. So, but yeah, lesson learned. Well, because I was just installing client software, I didn't think that I'd need to worry about doing a server backup. But yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah. Always have a backup before you set off down the path, right? Anything like that. Yeah.
I learned that one the hard way on Cisco switches.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You got one for us, Ian? Yeah, give us a quick one.
Yeah, okay. So really quick one. Configuring a Cisco switch one day, put a new config into it that I had very carefully planned out on a text file a day before, and pasted the text file into it, and it bricked the device. And I didn't have a backup of it, so I had to restore it from scratch.
You mean your Notepad IDE didn't pick up the problem?
No, it didn't. In my defense, though, I'd done that like 50 times before on data center switches and all the rest of them, and I just mucked something up on this one. Still don't know what I broke.
Yeah, that's the real. And thinking of Rick's story, if you run a dangerous command and it doesn't return, it's probably doing bad things.
Yes,
it starts sweating immediately. Control C, Control V.
I've got a similar one, but I'm going to save it for another show. All right, well, let's move on. We are going to get to a bunch of news stories in a minute, and particularly around next. But I just want to first kick off by saying Kasna is offering a bunch of free training. We're doing a thing called the Hitchhikers Guide to Google Cloud. It's on this Thursday, the 17th of November in the evening. I'll put a link, during the day. I'll put a link in the show notes, but the Hitchhiker's Guide to Google Cloud is a place to gain hands-on experience and learning more about making the transition to Google Cloud. It's a one-day action-packed intensive hand-on training is designed to build your extensive experience in AWS, Azure, or even non-cloud related tech experience. So it's open. You can come register. It's being held in Sydney at the Mandelgriff office in Sydney. And sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's in person, and I think the big difference with it is it's actually delivered by practitioners. So each module is delivered by somebody who's actually, in customers doing data or doing foundations and networking and stuff. So yeah, it's usually pretty good. It's not just one instructor and then there's labs and stuff. So usually pretty good.
Is this the first time we're doing this?
No, this is like the third time.
The third time, is it? Okay. Yeah.
We have been largely virtual, obviously, through the COVID period, but this one's going to be more in person. We'll do a Melbourne one soon too.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's so good having people who are like actually been at the coalface, right? You got the real experience. Like, this is what the training says. This is what it really is.
Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
So I'll put a link in the show notes. That'll just take you straight to the registration page. All right, well, let's get on with the big news that's happened during the last fortnight, and that's all the hacks that seem to be happening. Obviously, we had the Optus, air quotes, hack a couple of weeks ago. I mean, come on, open unauthenticated API. I mean, rookie mistake. And Dave and I had a bit of a chat about that a few weeks ago. But since then, we've had Medibank Private fall foul of a cyber attack. And we've brought Rick on the show, who is part of our internal security domain. and he's going to give us all the skinny and the lowdown on exactly where we are and what we know about the Medibank private hack up to this point. So, Rick, what can you tell us?
Yes, another week, another major hack. So with Medibank, what happened was on the 3rd of October, Medibank had said it taken offline the data and policy systems of its budget provider AHM and its international student division after a cyber incident. The next day, the company announced it had restored systems and said it was still responding to the incident. The situation developed on Wednesday the 19th when Medibank disclosed to the Australian Stock Exchange that hackers had contacted the company to negotiate over the future of 200 gigabytes worth of customer data. The public learned the scale of the breach on the 20th as the Australian Signals Directorate and Australian Federal Police started to investigate. Now, Medibank initially claimed there was no evidence that customer data had been accessed, and then later stated only international student data was taken. But it has now come to light the company has received files from the hackers that include main brand customers, widening the range of those potentially affected to 3.9 million. So, yeah.
Wow. So that announcement was made yesterday, was it? They said
yes.
That all their brands and all their clients are affected?
That's correct, yes. The information includes names, addresses, dates of birth, Medicare numbers, phone numbers, medical claims data. Now, this is the big one, including information about diagnosis, procedures, and the location of medical services. So this is significantly far worse than Optus as far as a breach is concerned, because,
healthcare information, right?
It's exactly.
And the guys that have done this sound like legit hackers. I mean, the guy that's done the Optus one was just by happenstance, I think, that he got it. And then when the heat got on him, he said, "Oh, soz, I'm walking away from it."
Yeah.
These guys are legit. These guys want their payout.
So in the Optus hack, it was the hack. Like, people could see what the hacker was talking about, and like he was explaining about the hack and everything like that in a public forum. This one, there's no public information. The hacker's just negotiating directly with Medibank, and that's it. Obviously, they thought they were bluffing, but I think what needs to be learnt here is probably how not to deal with an incident. If anything to be learnt from Optus and Medibank, I guess don't really say that nothing's been compromised if you don't actually know.
Yeah.
I think there's also been some other things in terms of the messaging of like who has been told and when. Like I saw that a lot of the notification that data was genuinely breached that went to like a shareholder notification before it went to any customers.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
And the scary part for me, I think, is the medical data that's been released or that's been taken as part of that. Like that sort of information is identifiable. It's bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen with that information? I'm sure there's going to be plenty of creative things that they could come up with. I don't know.
Well, okay. So if I've got your name, phone number, address, date of birth,
identity theft,
I know. So that's one part.
Yeah.
But if I also know that you've had treatment for, I don't know, say for example, like psychiatry, right? And I get the locations, so I know now you're a psychiatrist, and I've got details about you. Like
would they also hold 100 points? So
that's correct.
Passports and
they've got 100 points plus the medical data.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they'll have the Medicare card as well.
They do. Yeah. And driver's license.
Yeah.
And credit card. I think that's all you need.
Yeah.
And they didn't have cyber insurance. The other thing.
Right. So, I mean, what we're hearing at the moment is that they're probably going to have to pay the ransom. I mean,
do we know how much that is?
I don't know if they've disclosed it.
Probably not.
But it seems like there's no other way out of it at the moment.
Well,
they can do all the investigation that they want, but if these actors are overseas and they've got the data locked up somewhere, what can you do about it?
I think we're going to see a lot more legislation coming out.
Yeah,
if anything, it's going
to. Rick, do we know about the fallout at the moment? What the fallout's going to be?
No. But there is actually legislation that's also been just recently pushed through. So companies now are looking at $50 million fines for breaches of this sort of nature. So the fines are going to be fairly big. But then I was just thinking, like, what if the government gets breached? Do they fine themselves?
No, mate, you can't do that.
So, like, probably yes, right? It'd probably be like our department gets fined by another department. It's a money go round, but yeah,
money go round thing.
It all goes to the ATO.
Yeah. But I thought I saw this morning an article about the government has enacted some sort of emergency legislation to deal with the Medibank hack.
All right.
I don't have the details on it because I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, and the fallout, they reckon various news sources are saying it could cost Medibank just in the hack alone $35 million to pay out the hackers, but they reckon it could be 10 times that at least for
damages
for and lawsuits against them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So with the Optus hack, the government actually billed Optus for the having to reissue driver's licenses. So it looks like that might even have to be done again. I spoke to a colleague yesterday, and unfortunately, she's copped the double whammy. She was with Optus and Medibank. So I think there's a lot of people that are probably like her.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Pretty pissed off.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they hold that data for so long. You know, I think they were holding it for like 7 years. So you might have been with them in, 2016 and you've moved to another health fund. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah. So my little brother's with AHM, and yesterday we actually ended up getting the dreaded Optus letter as well. So he's had the double whammy too.
Yeah.
The government did something with the passports. They said that for the Optus one anyway, you didn't need to re-get your passport. So they must be flagging them on the way out, that if it was part of the breach potentially. So I'd wonder if they're going to do the same thing here, because like reissuing 3 million passports is pretty much impossible.
That's no mean feat.
I think that this whole on the 100 points of ID thing, though, it also demonstrates how things like driver's licenses, passport numbers, they're terrible ways of actually enforcing and proving your identity. Now, if you were designing a system today, you wouldn't use that. No. And so maybe that's something that will come out of this. Like maybe more you're using your MyGov ID or something more like that, as opposed to using some other device.
It's a method from a bygone era, right? Yeah. I mean, it worked fine, in mid 20th century, but I mean, it's here we are, 21st century. We don't do the systems aren't compatible. That don't work like that anymore, right?
But the thing I've got about the whole using a MyGov ID, and I think it's probably the best solution for the problem at the moment. But then it puts all of your information in government hands. And what happens when they get hacked?
Well, I think there's got to be some blockchain somewhere in there.
Yeah, possibly.
Probably does need to be. Yeah,
but blockchains can sometimes be transparent, and I guess we don't want this sort of data on an open blockchain. So once we go to our permissions-based blockchain, then we're pretty much having a central source anyway.
Yep.
Yep.
So I just wanted to talk about, there was also reports of how this attack happened. So some of the articles are pointing to a compromised user account or a fake account. I haven't been able to find the actual direct source, but there's quite a few media outlets that are reporting this. And so I just wanted to highlight how much damage one user can do, and how it's important. I think having a least privilege sort of policy in place.
So do we know if it was an internal thing, or was it a socially engineered thing, or around that account?
Do not know. I think the Australian Financial Review mentioned about a user account being compromised. But I couldn't find a source for the source, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Wow.
Well, we'll keep track of it over the next few weeks, and when we know a bit more, Rick, we'll get you back on.
Sure.
Cool. All right. Well, that's where we are with the hacks at the moment. So we might move on. We had Google Next happen in the last fortnight, and boy, oh boy, a lot of stuff came out of Google Next, and I honestly haven't had a chance to go back and see all of it yet. But I did see the opening, the launch talks, and I was quite pleasantly surprised to see ANZ Bank get a mention in there, which is fantastic. Of course, we've had involvement with that, and I don't think it's any secret. And yeah, up there with some of the big players, and it was fantastic to see that mentioned. But we thought we'd each go through a couple of things that sort of piqued our interest around some of the tech that came out of there. And look, I think some of the stuff was new. Some of the stuff we talked about on the show before, and it was kind of a summary of what had happened in the last 12 months. But we'll just go through and tell you some things that we liked about it. Now, I immediately grabbed onto this C3 VMs thing, C3 CPUs that are coming out, and what we're seeing is the new C3 machine series powered by 4th gen Intel Xeon scalable processors. Now, these are fantastic. They're also launching them with this Intel custom IPU, which I think we vaguely touched on a similar sort of thing for GCVE the other week, Dave.
Yeah, so it's just like an actual dedicated chip that does a lot of like network and storage offloading from the CPU.
It's a custom ASIC. Yeah, that's right. Offloads it. So the C3 CPU and IPU currently in private preview. As we said, it uses the 4th gen Xeon. The IPU is an ASIC, and it gives you up to 200 gig. Yeah, I saw that, 200 gigabits per second throughput. And using C3 can instantly deliver up to 20% performance gain over the previous C2 when you use it with the IPU.
I think they're like heavily targeting these and alongside hyperdisk for DB workloads. Like it's
DB
just,
workloads. Yeah.
Do you think SAP
really slick?
And you can bet that they're probably using this under the hood for a lot of the other services that they provide as well. I mean, why not use custom ASIC if you've got it there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, C3 machines. And the other thing that was sort of interesting was they made an announcement of new features in GCVE. Now, some of these we've covered off before, but there's a list. There's a list of things. Of course, there's the VMware Cloud Universal subscription. We know about that. We had to mention that on the show. The preview of automation with Google Cloud API and CLI support. Now, this is what we're waiting for.
Very excited about that.
This would be awesome once we get this.
We had an opportunity to do some of the private preview of that and doing feedback. So that was really cool, and it's great to see that service evolving.
Yeah. Yep. Advanced migration capabilities with the VMware HX Enterprise features. So they're including the enterprise license now, whereas before you had to request the upgrade, and now you're just getting a bog standard. Custom core counts to optimize application licensing costs. Custom core counts. I mean,
it's heavily especially if you're doing like Oracle, right? So you might want to use GCVE, but you really only want like 4 cores.
Yeah. Oh boy, pay an arm and a leg for it. Yeah.
The hardware underneath still stays the same. It just reduces the number of cores available to ESX.
What you're presented with,
So in essence, it'll reduce the licenses that you need.
Yeah, 100%. They mask off the CPUs in the BIOS, basically. So it presents like a lower core count.
The service has been expanded. It's available in Zurich with additional regions planned in Asia, Europe, and South America. Good to see it gaining popularity. Now, this next one's interesting. Traffic Director and Google Cloud VMware Engine integration for scaling web services and linking native GCP load balancers and GCVE backends.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome solution. Looking forward to actually getting my hands on with it and giving it trying it out in anger.
Yeah. It looks really cool. So for the benefit of the listeners, the way, if you want to egress to the internet now, they've kind of got this, well, I don't want to use the word janky, but just kind of set up where you go out via the VMware engine and you directly have an external IP address there. But using this new traffic director, you can create a hybrid backend inside VMware and link the front-end load balancer directly into VMware, and then have your traffic ingress and egress through that path. So you get all the benefits of the load balancer. You know, you get your cloud armor. You could probably use things like IAP, all those features that you have on the front end. Sorry, Dan, you were going to say.
It also adds another feature to it in that GCVE is used as a lift and shift in order to modernize your infrastructure. So it also adds the ability to, let's say you're going to containerize everything, you move everything off a VM and you put it into a container. And then instead of having to deploy a new load balancer or whatever, you just point the back end to GKE instead of GCVE.
100% right. Cuts out a migration step. Real slick.
You've already got that in place. You've got all that front end in place. Just move your workload.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice. Dell PowerScale for GCVE is now available. So you can mount. I mean, you've kind of been able to do this already. I'm a bit confused by this one. I know it's Dell PowerScale, and you might be comfortable with Dell PowerScale, but being able to mount NFS, Samba, and HDFS internally from VMs, we've been able to do that already, just not on Dell PowerScale.
Well, yeah. So you were able to do it with NetApp CVS.
NetApp, yeah.
And this is an additional solution that's now available as well.
Right. Because you could always roll your own as well. I guess you could roll your own storage with blocks and block storage. Yep. Yeah. So now you can do it with PowerScale. Cool. And the previous support of 96 node private clusters. Oh, that's a monster. 96 nodes, stretch clusters, and roadmap inclusion of additional compliance certifications. Now, Dave, I know you want to say something about stretch clusters.
Love me some stretch clusters, right? It's a really awesome solution, and once this gets into full GA in GCVE, like, it's going to be awesome, right? Just having the ability to have a whole zone fail over to the other side, like hands free, right? It's like in your data center, it's like, I just lost a rack of service. It's fine, they'll all come up the other side. So
just for everyone listening, what's the architecture look like with a stretch cluster?
So you'd have basically a set of like a vSAN cluster. It is literally stretched, all right? So say you might have had like 6 nodes. If you think in terms of like an on-prem thing, right? You might have had like 6 nodes spread over like 2 racks in a server room. You're basically taking like 3 of those nodes and putting them in another data center. With just a high-speed link between. You still get fully synchronous replication, so you get your dual-phase write. And
when you're working on vSphere, it's totally transparent. You kind of just wouldn't know.
Yeah, you just you lose, what you lose a zone, you lose all the hosts there. Then HADRS goes, those VMs are down. I better bring them up.
So cool.
And the subnet's stretched as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a layer 2 straight across.
Right. Yeah. So
hands-free.
Mac addresses are getting published to the cloud.
They all move over. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you're going to deploy 96 nodes, probably talk to your CE about getting a discount.
Yeah, maybe.
Just a pro tip. Cool. All right. Well, that's what grabbed my interest. Dave, I think you had an item there you want to talk about.
Yeah, so the one that really stood out to me, and I think it's probably because my partner is in marketing and kind of deals with this problem, it's their translation AI hub. Right. So this is really slick, right? So if you think about what the use case is targeting is for businesses that they need to translate their documentation or their, case studies, whatever it is, into multiple languages. And you find somebody internal who hopefully, speaks that language and also, your native language, and you get them to do it. And that's always a pain, especially because you'd be like, I need to get, Bob in IT because he speaks that other language, but he doesn't want to do marketing work. He doesn't do this translation for you. Or you pay a company to do it. Or, like what a lot of people do, is they copy and paste blocks of text and they throw it into like Google Translate, and they do it themselves that way, right? So what this translation AI hub does is it gives you a portal where you can upload a document, and it can be like a PDF, it can be a docx, PPTX, as well as Google Docs and slides, and it will batch do all the language translations for you in like well over 100 languages. You choose the ones you want, but it does it for you. And like on top of that, it not only just will give you like the PowerPoint back.
It maintains the format, right?
Keeps the format, right? It doesn't just take the text. You don't have to go in and pull the text out. Keeps the format, and it's editable. So if you look at it and go like, say it's translated a bit of domain-specific language, like, I don't know, a device, a part number or a machine, some sort of technical information, you can go in there and you can edit that. And on top of that, if you like correct some of those translations, it saves that into memory. So the next time it's doing translations like that, build out like domain-specific knowledge.
So that trains the model, retrains the model.
Yeah, it is so slick, and you pay just on a per page. So like the basic version of it is about 15 cents or US cents per page. The advanced one, which is currently in preview, is like 50 cents a page, which compared to what that would cost you to do that translation yourself, and it won't be as good. It's a bargain, right?
Yeah, to get to pay for a translator to do that, and a translation service could cost you a lot more.
For sure. Yeah. And so when I watched the presentation on this, I like turned around and grabbed my partner and said, you need to watch this with me because I know you deal with this problem, and it's going to revolutionize.
Yeah.
Because they have the issue, like they're a Australian-based business. They need to translate their stuff to like, they've got contacts in like New Caledonia and South Africa and Indonesia and China. They need to translate in all these languages. Now they've got a way.
Aren't they on Office 365 though?
They are, but you can use DocX and PPTX, so it's fine.
You can, I suppose.
Right?
Use this as like, the thin edge of the wedge. Right. This is the entry, right?
I have to refer them across to our CPs.
I saw a demo of AI. So last month we ran GDG Cloud Brisbane at our office, at the Metal Group office in Brisbane, and we had Andy from Google come in, and he actually showed us the AI ML stuff. And one of the really cool things I saw there was the ability in Google Lens for you to hold your phone up to a sign that's written in another language, and Google will actually color out the sign and put in the English translation of what is on that sign there in real time.
Live translation,
Live translation. It is so cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, so that was the thing that I was like most excited about. There was also some other really cool stuff in Workspace that sort of talked as pipeline stuff, but this was the one that really shouted at me.
Really grabbed you, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, speaking of community news, Ian, you dug into a few community news items.
Yeah, so look, I watched a fair bit of Google Next. The one thing that really stood out to me was the the developer keynote that was delivered by Ashley Willis. So she's the head of developer communities at Google.
Yeah, I watched this too. It jumped out at me, yeah.
Yeah, so this is all about burnout. And I've done it. I think I'm at 3 now. Count of 3, and the last one that I had was sort of like a week laying on a couch not being able to deal with anything. Like a mobile phone would ring in my next door neighbour's place, and I just lost my plot.
Borderline nervous breakdown.
Yeah, it was 100% nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, the points that she brought out. So the whole talk was about what happens during burnout, like the phases that you go through in burnout, being like getting a new job, and you're really like, you're in that honeymoon phase, you're really enthusiastic, your productivity's right up there, and then you start getting the stress and the neglect, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse unless you pull yourself back and learn to do a little bit of self-care and stop trying to multitask everything. So she had some really, really good points, and I encourage everyone to go and listen to this talk. And certainly for managers out there who are managing a team, go and listen to it, because she's got some really good points at the end of the talk about how to identify your people that are starting to suffer from burnout and how to bring them back. I've had to do it at my last job. One of the young guys I had was just working himself into the ground, and he wouldn't tell me that he was working. And it wasn't until I caught him on I was watching his Twitch stream, and he happened to mention how tired he was of just working 12-hour days. And I had no idea he was working that late.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool one to watch.
I think the trap is a lot of people they go to a new workplace or they see a lot of things going on around them and they want to get involved with everything. They want to have a finger in every single pie, and it's just not possible.
No.
You have to pick and choose where you want to go, and my personal strategy is just to pick, a handful of things, one or two things, and it's far more satisfying just to pick only a couple of things and go deeply on those things.
Yeah.
If you try and jump all over the place, you're only looking at each thing superficially, and it's just too much mental load coming in trying to track everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think the thing that really surprised me a lot, I've been there 3 or 4 times now. I think the thing that surprised me the most was the recovery time that she quoted. And this is all sourced information, so she's got it all from medical places. But she said the average recovery time for burnout is 2 years.
Wow.
It's not just a long weekend's going to get you back from that.
No.
Was there anything about sort of COVID and sort of this move to fully virtual often and the I sort of feel that post COVID that there's more burnout just because of, or different types of burnout, I suppose, because of the virtual meetings. That's all back to back now.
Yeah. Well, I had a day of it yesterday. I had 9 a.m. until 2:30 in the afternoon.
Which, by the way, I've mentioned this on the show before. You can enable a thing in Google Meet called speedy meetings, and what it'll do is if you book a 30-minute meeting, it'll automatically make it 25 minutes. So it'll put a break at the end. If you book any 60 minutes or more, it'll automatically put a 10-minute. Right, you'll only book it for 50 minutes.
Yeah, right.
So that's really good to prevent that back to back, to give you 5 minutes to get up and go to the loo or grab a coffee or just have a little mental break outside.
There's also,
I highly recommend everyone turn that on.
There's also focus time, which will automatically respond to your calendar invites without having to be like out of office or anything. So that's pretty good rather than just blockouts because people don't often look at that. Or if they're external meetings as well, right? They just need to know I'm not available during these hours.
I think the thing that with COVID and coming out of COVID, I think the thing that I've heard a lot of is people are struggling with peopling.
Yeah.
Like that whole going back into the office and being surrounded by people and noise and all that. It's overwhelming now. Yeah. And I get it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, completely.
I was like that pre-COVID though.
Yeah.
So now we're all on the same plane.
Yeah.
I don't know how we could do what we're doing now in an office. I just don't think it'll work. We couldn't sit around with all the background noise and everything going on and create a podcast if we're all sitting in offices. I just don't think it'll work.
No, I certainly couldn't in Brisbane because the Brisbane office meeting rooms are right below the upper floor, and so you hear people walking along the floor. But the other really cool thing, and I'm sorry I have two, but the other really cool thing is Google's announced Skills Boost to the general public includes Innovators Plus, which is a really, really cool benefit. It gives you credits on GCP. It gives you a whole heap of really, really cool benefits for using. We just find the page that I had up here. Here it is. Cool. So you get a welcome pack as part of Innovators Plus.
Can't put a price on that.
Nope. No, mine is due today. And speaking of Fitbits, it comes with a Fitbit.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. So it's a Fitbit Charge 5, I think it is. But anyway, you get $500 worth of Google Cloud credits. You get a certification voucher for applying to your next exam, which basically makes it free. You get live learning events, and obviously you get Google Cloud Skills Boost, which is invaluable.
So if you're a premier partner of Google's, do you get this as well?
No, we don't. I already asked.
Did you?
This is on an individual,
So this costs money for most people. I've been lucky enough to be given the Google Cloud Innovators Champion label.
You say Google. Lucky, right? You worked really hard to earn that.
But lucky and to be chosen to do it. So, and so I get it as part of that benefit.
Cool.
I think the other thing that was cool is, you get that exam voucher, and then if you pass that exam, you get another $500 worth of cloud credits.
Yep.
Right? So for your $300 a year, you get 1,000 in credits and an exam voucher. It costs negative money.
Yeah. Oh, you got me considering that now. Okay.
And on your developer's profile in Google, you get a nice little badge that says Innovators Plus.
Yeah. Excellent.
Nice.
Although with the exchange rate at the moment, $2.99 a year. I guess it's a tax deduction. All right, cool. Well, no, there's some really awesome community items there, Ian. Now, Troy, this one grabbed me as well. Cloud workstations. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, so most of you probably, or many are probably familiar with Cloud Shell in the console. You kick that off, and behind it, you just end up with a terminal. You got a machine. Most people don't really realize sort of what's behind that. This is really Google's effort to turn this into an enterprise service, because it's often in an enterprise disabled because it's uses public IPs. It's not really that secure. You're not going to have access to a lot of resources you need potentially on-prem, for example, in the enterprise. So this is a way of spinning up those cloud shells or developer environments easily and manageable with your own custom container. So it runs a full container. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I had a Pixelbook and was hoping to just synchronize my local container, or even just use a container up in the cloud that had all my tool sets, had everything I needed, my IDE, my super snazzy Vim setup. All my
any important files you needed, they're all up there.
It's all up there, and you're just comfortable, right? But with Cloud Shell, it was a bit, you could do this, but it was a lot trickier to have it there and ready to go. So with Cloud Workstations, they allow you to spin up your own GKE clusters that automatically shut down and spin up these Cloud Workstations for you to then have developers running against. Now, this is also tied into what Rick's going to talk about with this new software delivery capability, which gives you secure coding sort of from end to end. So this is an idea around life cycling security all the way from the developer typing in code in a private workstation or cloud workstation that has access to Artifactory and a lot of stuff on-prem, let's say, and security tooling, all the way then to the apps getting delivered on GKE in production to customers. That full software delivery chain. So Cloud Workstations is part of that, and I'm pretty excited to start using them and rolling our own containers, even for Kazna. So newbies coming in, here's your Cloud Workstation that's got all the tools that we like in the way that we like, and it's got our templates. And there's some really cool stuff.
Is it giving you a desktop, or is it just a command line similar to the console?
Mainly command line, but it's for development IDEs. So Golang, PyCharm, IntelliJ, JetBrains, all the main IDEs running there, and it's a containerized image. We're all Linux developers, right? Anyway, so we wouldn't use a Windows desktop anyway.
No. So it's similar to when you go to
Cloud Shell,
the code editor in Cloud Shell.
Exactly. Cloud Shell is right. So when you go into the code editor, that's actually just running the IDE locally in your Cloud Shell on that container. And then saving. And this gives you a lot of options around snapshotting as well, being able to move them, say, between prod, non-prod, that sort of thing, but also being able to save it for later and using templating and then sharing that internally within your organization so that people can have this sort of base image to then work off of. So I think for us, for our development sort of standard practices and best practices and tool sets, it should be pretty fun.
And I like, so I'm using JetBrains Toolbox. I get given a license for it as part of being a GDE, and I've been trialing all the integrations these days. I've got a previewed version of Fleet now, and Fleet is really, really cool. Like the pair coding capability in Fleet is really good. One of our fellow Kaznians and I have been pair coding on the project that we're working on at the moment, and it's still a preview, so there's some issues there, obviously. The biggest one I find is when you're pair coding, the host of the pair coding session is giving out root access to their drive, which is obviously a problem. But I'm sure JetBrains are going to
Not if you do it in a container.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, the JetBrains tools are really cool to use.
Yeah, and JetBrains is featured pretty heavily in this as well. So there's pretty tight integrations that are coming up. Yeah.
Cool. And you said that integrated with Software Delivery Shield. Ricky, you had something to say about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So Google over the last year have been investing billions of dollars into security and developing more security operations, and pretty much end-to-end cycle. They've been developing the components pretty much over the last 6 months or so, and a couple of the components have been touched on in previous shows. And so one of the main things is, the cloud workstations, as Troy talked about, that's currently in preview. And so what they're pretty much doing is they're combining a lot of Google products and services and then implementing best practices and adding on pretty much extra protection at almost every layer. So a few of the things that they're going to be having is assured OSS service, which basically means that you only use images and packages that have been assured. And they're also doing a lot of scanning of vulnerabilities into like artifact registry, and a lot of container analysis is coming into it. And then they're building security features into Cloud Build as well. So then all these different components, they've now decided to package this as one complete sort of suite, very similar to what they did in the data domain. So now they're just grabbing all these components together and calling it, your Software Delivery Shield.
Yep,
it's so cool. It's really great to see because like we touched on assured open source like a few times in the show. Like we're real keen to see that come through. Like it's open source, but Google's had a hand in it. They've been these are the packages that they use. Making that, like stitching all of these tools together. And like the other thing, like you mentioned there with like cloud workstations, is it also helps move away from, say, like developers pulling code down onto their own machines. You can keep that code in the workstation now. They don't have to keep a local copy of, from the repo, right? It's not
doesn't
just
have to be out in the wild.
No,
That's correct. Yeah, so it makes sure that you're only using secure images and secure code at all times.
Yep. I could. This is just. It's such a strong value proposition.
Oh, for sure. And they're also, and not on top of that, they're also adding on lots of extra monitoring and logging and stuff like that, and bringing that into like really nice dashboards, tying that into like your security command center and Chronicle as well, I guess. Yeah.
If you think about the testing and security testing all the way in those cloud workstations, make your Rego for policies that you're writing that can live in that same repo, and then through the build chain, and then the deployment testing and deployment production, all can be driven, securely and via this one ecosystem. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and end to end in the cloud as well, right? It's not none of the data is leaving that space.
Yes. Yeah. So what I've actually currently been working on is that one of the other components that they use is the on-demand scanning with the containers. So you can build this into Cloud Build. So you can set a severity rating based on that container. And if an image that you pull into Cloud Build has a vulnerability, you can actually then fail that build, or at least warn people if it's in dev and things like that, and say
right.
Yeah, that's a switch in Artifact Registry now, which is really cool.
Yep.
Scan the containers. Yep.
And I guess it would also be scanning. So you're obviously scanning at build time, but once those, once the container image is in Artifact Registry, like, sure, there might not be a vulnerability on your package today, but in a week's time, like maybe you haven't made any code changes, you haven't updated versions, but like now I can say this container now has vulnerability, but these have been identified.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so that's how it all ties into Security Command Center, and it's always constantly scanning your Artifact Registry, and it compares it to the CVE database. So the moment that there's been a vulnerability found, it will alert you.
I think from what I saw is that sometimes with the vulnerability detection, it'll also come and say like, yeah, and this is the fixed version of that. Like there's a known fix for this.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
All we need now is some AI to go in and apply the fix for you.
We got AI to write the code, so might as well.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because GitHub does that. It doesn't do it off the bat, but they send you
Copilot.
No, not even Copilot. So I've got a GitHub repo that's got a few public repos in it, and one of the things that it does is scans the repo for versions of Ruby gems that I've used that are have vulnerabilities, and then it suggests a fix for me. So I get this email every month or so and say, "Yep, approve," and it just goes and does the commit.
Yeah, and looks for passwords and API keys and things as well.
So you could do some sort of AI. It's like it automatically knows what's the next. Normally, because we're dealing with containers, right? We're dealing with images, so you could actually set AI to download the latest container image that has fixed that vulnerability. Generally, like a lot of the vulnerabilities happen within the base of the actual operating system within the container. So things like Alpine Linux and stuff like that, or if you're using Python as a base. So generally, you could upgrade the base without actually affecting anything else.
I guess you could have the AI could see the fixed version. It could on a branch, update it, run any tests for you, and if all the tests pass, then it create a pull request for you to action.
Yeah. That's another thing I'm actually currently working on.
Nice. Hey, just quickly, Ian, you mentioned back to GitHub before. I learned a trick the other day, which actually blew my mind. Like if you're in a repo in GitHub that you own, and you press the full stop button, the period button, it opens up a VS Code instance.
Oh, really?
You can make changes right there, and you can do your commit.
Edit it right
there.
The repo.
I'm in the repo right now. Let me try this.
Press full stop.
Give it a go.
This is...
oh, hang on. Setting up your web editor.
There you go.
Look at that.
It's like last week I saw that. I was like, what? How? When? Why was no one going to tell me this?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Hey, looks like I don't need a local editor anymore.
No. Especially you think if you had to, quickly just fix something, you don't have your own machine around, you could just sign on somewhere, log in, check your repo, quick change, off you go.
Yeah, so I'm just having a look at mine because this article reminded me of that is Dependabot.
Dependabot.
That's the one. Yeah.
Dependabot, that's the one. Yep. Yes. All right, cool. Well, thanks for that, Ricky. Some cool things coming out there with that combination of workstation and software delivery shield. I'll put links in the show notes. Now, since it is the first anniversary special and we've got everyone back together, it's been fantastic, guys. It's been real fun recording this. I thought we'd play a little game. Why not play a little game? And I'm going to make you guys sweat it a little bit because I've got a couple of questions here for you guys. Now, these questions, this is sort of a test run for something. I'm not going to go too much into what I want to do in the future. Not on the show at the moment, but it is a test run for something I want to do next year. And this is the kind of thing you'll be hearing from us next year. But I want to see you guys sweat it out a little bit. I got a couple of questions here, and what we're going to do, we're going to play a game here, and we came up with this name during the week, but I think a good name for it is Binary BS. And the idea is I'm going to give you a question, and you have to tell me whether it's true or false.
I think it should be Boolean. Boolean BS.
Boolean BS. I like binary BS. Come on.
And we're playing on my weak point here. My memory sucks.
If it's binary, we're only allowed to answer with a 0, 1, 2.
Nice.
So no can't be an answer.
No pointer.
All right. We like Boolean. Anyway, the name... Yeah, the name's a work in progress, put that way. Look, so I'm going to give you these questions. Now, the clue is all these questions relate to previous episodes of the show or items that we have covered on the show before. Okay, so I will put them here in the chat. Now, I'm going to give you all the questions first, and then I will tell you the order that we're going to go in. So, question 1. It is possible to suspend or resume a VM with an ACPI S3 signal. Have a think about that. Question number 2. Google Cloud was used to calculate pi to 100 trillion digits, which required 551 terabytes of storage. Question number 3. Cloud Spanner now offers an SQL interface that supports PostgreSQL that is 100% compatible with Postgres. And question number 4. In financial year 2021, Google Cloud lost $3.1 billion over the entire year. So, Rick, since you're our guest, you can go first. One of these questions is false. Which one is it?
I'm going to say...
You can go through each one if you like. And
I know which ones are true. 1 and 4, I'm not 100%. But I'm going to say... Number 4 is false.
Okay, so Rick is going with number 4 as being the fake. Okay, number 4. So I'll make it a note of that here. All right then. Troy, since you're our next least experienced, which one do you think is the false?
I'm 100% sure of 3. Ian's shaking his head. You're not allowed to.
I was reading about Cloud Spanner just yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is supported now because we're using it at a customer site. Or I think maybe it's not 100%. I mean, that's the thing. These could be like little subtle drop in here things.
I got to make it tricky, right?
ACPI S3 signal sounds like it should be something that should be pass throughable. Theoretically, I mean, you've got probably mini BIOS there, right? So I'd say yes. 551 terabytes for 100 trillion digits. I think you could just, if I had time, I could do a quick calculator and just get how many. Yeah, that's right. How many digits? That's probably close. Like I said, the Postgres support for Spanner I know is there, but maybe not 100%. And probably would be some small, but it's probably like 95%. And that's why Ian was shaking his head. And then
just a hint, Troy. Number 3, we went to a meetup about this.
Yeah, and
and do you remember? Have a think about.
What's
Google's presentation?
100% compatible, though. I mean, like I said, we're using it as a customer, but could I say that we're 100% compatible? That it's 100% compatible? That's what I'm worried about. Yeah. I think that's... So I'm going to go number 3. I'm going to go number 3.
So which one are you going with, Troy? You're going with 3, Troy?
I think it's 100% thrown in there is a bit of a giveaway.
All right. Ian, which one? Give me your reasons.
No, I remember reading yesterday, Cloud Spanner. I was reading all about Cloud Spanner yesterday, just because of the client that we're working on at the moment, who has 107,000 tables in MySQL, and I'm trying to find a solution that doesn't require us to shard the databases. And Cloud Spanner came up, but the migration to Cloud Spanner was going to be terrible.
All right. Well, ignoring that, what is your answer?
Well, 3 is definitely wrong.
3. All right. And Dave?
So, these caught me out a little bit because you're right. Like a bunch of them, it's like, this seems like it's true. My first read, I'm like, all these things are true. Where's the one? I'm pretty sure that, it's the Cloud Spanner one that's not 100% because I can remember us that when there was some updates that enabled using S3, I think there was something that was changed. I remember, the storage requirements on the pi calculation, because that was actually like a super fascinating article, like the architecture they had to build out for that. And like I the $3.1 billion loss, that sounded about right. Like, it's like, yes, losing money, but less money. So 3 was the one that I was going to go with.
3 was the one you were going. All right, so we've got Rick standing alone there on number 4, with the $3.1 billion over the entire year. Everyone else is saying number 3, the Postgres SQL that is 100% compatible with Postgres. So we will go in order. So number 1, question number 1, is it possible to resume a VM instance with ACPI 3 signal? Yes, it is, and of course, I'll put a link to the show notes to the article. This was a feature that was introduced in March of this year. And you can put suspend and resume is now generally available. So your VM can send an ACPI signal and suspend and resume your workload.
Jeez, was that really March? Handy. How fast this year's gone.
March. Yep, that was in March. Number 2, Google Cloud was used to calculate pi to 100 trillion digit, and it beat the previous record. I'll link this in the show notes. They calculated an additional 31.4 trillion on top of the previous record. And when was that? When did we talk about that? That was in June. Talked about that. Quite an amazing feat. And number 3, Google Cloud Spanner now offers SQL interface that supports PostgreSQL that is 100% compatible. Well, I think you guys figured it out. It is not 100% compatible. So this one is the fake. It is compatible with SQL, but it doesn't support extensions, triggers, non-serialized isolation,
or stored procedures.
Stored procedures. Yeah. So they're getting there, and you can kind of understand why they don't support those special things. I guess I'll get there in the long run, but right now it's just the SQL interface. And that leaves the last question. In financial year 2021, Google Cloud lost $3.1 billion, and that is true. All right, guys. Well, look, we might leave it there at the end of this show. Thanks for joining me today. It's been awesome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Always like your insight. And Ricky, thanks for joining us on this special occasion. You might now become a member of the crew, special insight in the crew.
I think I've invested enough in this sound room, but it definitely needs a lot more work.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Don't forget to go and write the show a review on iTunes. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts as well. We also have Kasna Between Two Clouds. Now, I haven't mentioned that one for a little while, but I think, Troy, you guys need to get up there and create a few more videos on that one.
Working on that. You just got to get Simon back in. He's a busy guy, but there's a lot of demand for Between Two Clouds, and a bit of hilarity and a few beers for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And next time I'm down in Melbourne, maybe we can do something. We'll see. Well, we should. Yeah, we need more. When you're in Melbourne, let's do that for sure. Or we'll come up to Sydney and do a couple episodes up there with you guys.
Shoot something up here. Yep. And don't forget, you can contact the show, gcplife@kasna.com. We've got the Twitter there as well, @GCPLife. I cross-post this when these shows come out onto my LinkedIn. That's Stephen Bancroft. You can find us on the website. It looks all nice and snazzy now. Oh, did I tell you that the whole RSS feed's running now on some code, some Python code that I created? Yes. I'm going to put that in a repo. I'll make it public too, because I know there's a few other podcasters out there that would appreciate that as well. And don't forget, today's sponsor is Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I think that's about enough from me. Anything else from you guys? And you can't shake your head. It's an auditory thing, right?
You said it best when you say nothing at all.
Yep. We'll be here forever. I think we've gas bagged enough for today. That's it from us, guys. See you later. Bye.
Catch you later.
Bye.
See ya. I remember reading the article and I pulled it up in my history.
Hang on, you're not supposed to Google these.
Oh, you're using your history. Yeah, you can't. Don't Google it.
I should have prefaced that with "Don't Google. We're playing a game."
Okay. Yeah, Ian's out.